Good afternoon, Tony Datino here with you, doing my Wednesday 5 o'clock broadcast early in the afternoon, as my calendar from 4 until 8 this evening has gotten booked with a couple of other activities, one being a Zoom call with folks from Australia. So I wanted to make sure I did my broadcast. I wasn't going to take chances with my schedule in the evening and then just not getting it done. So have some time right now, and I thought I would do it. And continuing on the article that I read this weekend in New Scientist magazine, and this was an article all about what happens to our brains as we continue to move. And as I was reading the second part of this, it talked about getting strong. And it brought me back some wonderful memories and conversations I had many years ago with Tony Buzan, who to me was always a person who was way ahead of what science was uncovering. And I often asked him, and I only wish I would have gotten an answer before he had passed, which is, Tony, how did you know these? How are you finding things out that it takes science like 5 years to discover or share with the world? And I often wondered how he was able to do that. Well, as I'm reading this particular article, here it comes, get strong. And what Tony was able to tell me years ago, as part of not only my aerobic activity in terms of running and exercising and moving from a physical aerobic point of view, but he also encouraged me and got me to start lifting these little 5-pound dumbbells. Now, I was never going to be a weightlifter. I was never going to try to press, hundreds of pounds or anything. But I wanted to maintain flexibility of my muscles, and I wanted to at least maintain some strength in them. So Tony encouraged me to at least get into a program of 5, 8, 10-pound dumbbells, which I did many, many years ago. Well, here, I say many, it's got to be at least 10 years ago, so I'm like 10 years ahead of reading this report that's coming out in this article. And this is from, I'm trying to see, I talked about this the other day, where this is coming from. Oh, God. In any case, I'll refer that in my next broadcast. I won't come back and look at that. But it's science coming out about the importance of movement. And this one talks about get strong. And here's something that's a little bit disheartening, but if you step back and think about this, some of this stuff makes a lot of common sense. And we're in a global lab of experiments. But here's shocking information. A study in 2019, not too long ago, we're in 2021, 2019, found that 10-year-olds were 20% weaker and had 30% less muscle endurance than kids that were done in 2014 compared with children of the same age that they tracked from 1998. So let's get through it again. A 2019 study found that 10-year-olds were 20% weaker and had 30% less muscle endurance in 2014 compared with children of the same age measured in 1998. So if we step back and think about this, okay, we're having a study done, and they're measuring kids in these different periods of time, and they're finding out that they are weaker, 20% weaker, and 30% less muscle endurance. If we're video gaming and we're Xboxing, and the best we're doing is sitting and playing games at laptops, and we're doing webinars and Zooms and whatever, what are we doing about movement? And who's thinking, as we're going through the pandemic, we're going through the gaming stage, who's thinking about our muscles? And the fact that we should be doing some form of muscle building exercise, which science is now telling us is that our muscle groups are communicating to our brain. Which, again, who thinks of this stuff? But now doing studies, again, Tony Buzan shared this with me years ago, to make sure I was doing things for my thighs and for my calves, for my stomach, for my arms, forearms. Make sure I was doing things that would continue to build my muscles. And so running was a good thing because it helped with the leg muscles and things, but doing squats, doing sit-ups, lifting weights, these are not things that we have to stop doing during a pandemic. And this even goes on to say that. But let me just give you some of the highlights. I mean, this is mind-blowing. A sedentary lifestyle certainly is to blame. And it matters for our physical and mental health as well. So we say sedentary and say, okay, got it. It's going to impact our physical health, but our mental health as well. People who are stronger in middle age have more gray matter and better memory 10 years later. So you're middle age and you're keeping yourself physically fit, you have a stronger, more gray matter and better memory capacity. One explanation for this is called the hormone, which is released from bones when we move against gravity in any form of weight-bearing exercise. So there's a hormone going on. So now we find a hormone, and in any form of weight-bearing exercise, this hormone is being released to the hippocampus. All right, here we go. The hippocampus. Hippocampus is the shape of a seahorse, which is why we have this as the logo for the USA Memory Championship. And the hippocampus, shaped like a seahorse, is being fed with these hormones when we have a weight-bearing exercise of any kind. And it also is linked to age-related cognitive decline and neurodegenerative diseases, or the lack thereof, these hormones. In the University of Southern California, so now we're going to get to the University of Southern California, our body has an unconscious sense of the health and state of our muscles and bones. So here comes the University of South Carolina, and it was Dr. Antonio Damasio. I've read some of his books. Well, he talks about we have an unconscious sense of health and state of mind that works with our muscles and bones. This is what I was saying before. We have some muscles that we have, and now the bones. I hadn't thought of the bones before. But those are communicating to our bodies. And they send messages about the strength and agility of the body's movement apparatus. Tony Buzan told me this years ago. My goodness, Tony was telling me it's important to maintain muscle strength as well as aerobic strength. Now we know aerobic, right, is feeding the oxygen we need, but now I've had a couple of broadcasts I've done on the importance of anaerobic strength. And here comes University of Southern California through Professor Damasio, telling us that strength and agility is connected to a movement, which is connected to our thinking and our brain. This feeds into implicit sense to our body of what we can handle. So I thought, man, this is really personal for me right now. Up until a month ago, I was invincible. I was running 4 days a week. I was weightlifting 3 days a week. I was bike riding 3 days a week. I was swimming 4 days a week. I mean, during pandemic, I just have exploded with physical activity, and I was feeling invincible until a little over 4 weeks ago. I fell off a couple of steps trying to fix something on a door, and some tears in my rotator cuff. Boy, you want to talk about how it's messed up with my head, and it's messed up in some cases with my focus of things that I need to be doing, all connected to falling and hurting my rotator cuff. So now I'm back physical therapy. I'm back in Windermere. I have got a fantastic physical therapy department at the Celebration Hospital Health Center, Rehab Center they have there at Celebration, Florida. And I'm working back into getting this taken care of so I can minimize my risk or need of having surgery. But mentally, who's stopping to think of mentally? It's now only since I'm starting to feel some relief through the physical therapy folks there that I'm beginning to feel some movement back in this arm that has an impact on my mental abilities as well. In this case, the decreasing levels of strength, and now watch this connection, right? So I'm reading the current issue, the July-August issue of Reader's Digest, and they're talking about, boy, we have an epidemic. We have a crisis that's making us all jumpy. But how do we know when you have slipped into a serious problem? Well, we have a crisis of anxiety. Watch now, watch where we're going. In a case, the decreasing levels of strength in modern society are troubling. It is tempting to think that this decline may even play into the epidemic of anxiety and mental health conditions that are affecting people of all ages. I'm not sure how many of you have dealt with kids, teenagers, school kid anxiety. It's like we had a national epidemic. It's like, how many kids do you know that are on medications of some sort? Or how many now are not? Or not hyper or anxious or whatever? Well, here we go. The sedentary lifestyle could be leading to the epidemic of anxiety and mental health. Perhaps the message is that the musculoskeletal divisions of our bodies are not giving us what we need to feel confident about ourselves. So now we got the I'll try this one more time. The musculoskeletal division of our bodies. The good news is that we can update this body-mind conversation at any time. Strength training is emerging as a powerful tool to tackle depression and anxiety, even if it's not part of a wider fitness program. So there's hope for us. And all of this is relevant to the work we do in the Maximum Memory Mastery online course. So we got Maximum Memory Mastery online. And we got into that by starting to look at what are factors that impact brain health. And what are those factors? And it's not just mental challenges, which we do with the USA Memory Championship, but it's what are the other variables about us. And so exercise has now gotten deeper, and we're not just looking at exercise as in aerobics, since we knew oxygen was a crucial factor to our brain, but now we're finding as movement is equally important to us. And to that, I will continue in my next broadcast on Friday with the balance of this article, which has just been amazing in reading it. It just brings together so many of the things that I've been reading and studying and researching. But to me, it's like it puts it into a nice little package of how do you talk to people to get them to understand the physiological and the mental impacts of inactivity and staying sedentary. That is my message for tonight. It is Wednesday, and this hopefully anybody's tuning in the 5 o'clock hour. Have a great evening, but I wanted to make sure I got this accomplished today. I promised to do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I wanted to get this broadcast out before my afternoon and evening swallowed up my schedule and my time. So I shall be back to continue, and we'll see you on Friday.